Hello. Okay, I've been using watercolour for about 20 years, 10 of those more seriously, and I really love the colour blue. I've used it loads in my painting and I've tried out lots of different shades of blue. So for this video, I'm going to run through the 6 that I use probably the most, and I'll talk a little bit about colour theory and I'll do swatches, and I'll also run through some examples of where I've used them in my work. Okay, so I've got my 6 swatch cards here, and the first thing I'm going to do is fill out the Cerulean blue and the Paynes Grey because I didn't have those two, and I want to show how I make these swatch cards. Okay, so I like to use these fairly large pieces of paper just so that I can move them around and compare the colours with each other. And all I do is I just do a gradated wash, so I've got my darker watercolour paint towards the bottom, and then I get water on my brush and I just pull that paint up so that I can see what the different tones of the watercolour look like. Okay, so that's the Cerulean blue, and I'm going to do the Paynes Grey one as well. Okay, so I've got my 6 swatches down here now, and I've actually moved the Paynes Grey to this end because I've got my cooler blues towards this end and my warmer blues towards this end. So the cooler blues lean more towards green and the warmer blues lean more towards purple. And if you look at them, you can see that. If you compare them, you can see that this ultramarine is more purpley than this phthalo blue, which is more green. Now that I've actually done the Cerulean blue swatch, I'm not actually sure which has more green, this one or this one, but anyway, this is the order I've put them in. Okay, so I'm just going to run through each colour now and explain why I like them and how I use them and give examples. So the first one is the Paynes Grey. Now I use that a lot in my work, and I quite often use it on its own. So this abstract landscape here is an example, and Paynes Grey has some black in it, and you can really get a very dark colour if you don't use too much water. So that's what I've done with this painting. I've got very dark paint towards the bottom, and then I've added more water to get lighter shades towards the top. Now this painting really just looks like one ginormous swatch, but I absolutely love this colour and I do really like minimalist art, so that's that one. Okay, so the next one I'm going to talk about is the Phthalo blue, or I'm not sure if that's pronounced Phthalo blue. I call it Phthalo blue. So I love this colour and I've used it quite a lot combined with Cobalt blue. It has this kind of staining effect, and I really like the way that the paint goes down on the paper. Now it's quite similar to the Cerulean blue, but actually if you compare the two, I would say the Cerulean blue is a bit more granulating, and I think that this Phthalo blue does have a bit more green in it. Okay, so now let's talk about the Cerulean blue. This colour is used a lot for painting skies, and I've used it here in this painting to represent some water, and I love the way that it contrasts with the Paynes Grey. Okay, so now the Cobalt blue. This is probably one of my favourite colours and I use it a lot. I used it in this painting here, and I like the way that it handles when you use it wet and wet, so I do quite a lot of these circles in Cobalt blue, and here's an example of it used just wet on dry. Okay, so now this Indanthrene blue, which I've just realised I've left the E off the end, so I'm just going to put that in there. Now I've been using this colour recently quite a lot with a colour combination that I really like, and here I've mixed it with burnt sienna, and there's a permanent rose in here as well, and I love the way that, because the Indanthrene blue leans towards purple, it gives a kind of feeling of the light coming off the horizon here. Okay, so the last one here is the ultramarine, and this is actually French ultramarine. I'll just put that in there. Now this tends to be more veering towards purple than some of the other ultramarines. You can get ultramarine green shade, and that obviously veers more towards green. So I've used the French ultramarine quite a lot lately in paintings where I've combined it with a cerulean blue, for example this one here. And I love this colour, maybe not in too bigger areas, but just a touch of ultramarine I think is really nice. Okay, so I'm actually going to add one more colour, and that is indigo blue, because it's quite a common watercolour colour and I do use it quite a bit. I think it's probably going to go in here, and I don't have a swatch of it, so I'm going to make one now. Okay, so I've used the indigo blue on this painting along with the Paynes Grey, and as you can see it's not as black in colour as the Paynes Grey. In actual fact the Paynes Grey probably belongs somewhere up here, but I'm just going to put it there alongside the indigo blue. Okay, so that's 7 different watercolour blues. There's plenty more, but these are all relatively common, and these are the 7 that I'm using the most at the moment. Okay, so I think that laying out your blue swatches like this and just working out which ones are cooler and which ones are warmer is a really useful exercise and gets you to sort of know your blues a bit better, and also can help with mixing them. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about mixing blues now, and also mixing neutrals. So I've got my colour wheel here, and I've mixed cobalt blue with lemon yellow, so that's a cool blue with a cool yellow, and it's made a really bright green. And in this one, in this swatch, I've just added more of the cobalt blue, and I love these greens that you get from mixing these two colours. But you can obviously make green using different blues and different yellows. But let's try mixing the ultramarine with the lemon yellow, and you'll just see that you get a different green because the ultramarine has a bit more red in it, so you're not going to get quite such a sort of pure green. It's going to be a bit more muddy, as you can see when I compare them. But you know, obviously this might be the colour that you want to use, particularly if you're doing more naturalistic paintings. And I actually quite often make a nice olive green by mixing orange with French ultramarine. So obviously this video is about blue and I'm talking about green, but that's because I do normally mix my greens from using blues, and I think that understanding blues helps with understanding how to mix greens. And you could also do something similar and go the other way and look at mixing purples with blue and red. But just to finish off, I'm just going to talk about the complementary of blue, which is orange. So if you like orange and you really want to make it stand out, then put it next to a blue and that will really make the colour pop. But I'm going to talk about mixing neutrals, and a good way of mixing a neutral is to mix together the two complementaries. So I'm just going to quickly do that here. Okay, so here I'm mixing French ultramarine with a cadmium orange, and that's just made a really nice grey. So if I was wanting to do a painting with some neutrals, I would look at the primary colours I had and I would make the neutrals from those primary colours, and then you get a really nice overall colour harmony. Okay, so for all but one of the paintings shown in this video, I've got either a tutorial or a demonstration. So I'll put a link in the description along with the name of the blue that I talked about for each one. Okay, so I really hope that this video has been useful, and I absolutely love blue. I could just get lost in it, so I hope it encourages you to look at your blues differently or buy some new ones, and maybe you'll get lost in blue too, even if just for a while. Okay, thank you, bye.